Well, Tom, as you know, the advice from the Commonwealth has never been to close borders. So this is a step in the right direction by Premier Palaszczuk, but it's the first one. And locally, Tom, there's reports yesterday of people out, undercover police, for example, or plainclothes police, cracking down on regional hotels who are not getting it right in terms of the code of response and keeping particular records and fines for thousands of dollars. I just think we need to focus on the things that really matter here. I mean, you can't have a few thousand of your closest friends get together for a protest and go home without penalty and then be out knocking business around who are just trying to get themselves going and employ Australians.
But what are you saying? Don't police the rules that are in place? Isn't that important? Otherwise, everyone will assume they can do whatever they want?
Well, if you're going to police the rules, Tom, you do it equally and in a balanced way, and I'm very happy for that to happen. But everyone needs to play their part here, everyone. Now, we know that there's some challenges in Victoria in terms of a hotspot. The Commonwealth is providing support and will continue to do that for all states that have outbreaks. And let's be frank and practical. There will be hotspots, there will be localised outbreaks, but we need to get back going, we need to get underway, we need to get our economy moving and jobs moving.
So the border closures have been very popular with Queensland voters. What do you think of this announcement that will still keep Victorians out of Queensland?
Tom, as I've said, the Commonwealth's advice has never been to close borders. There are localised hotspots and the Victorian Government is taking action with support from the Commonwealth. But once again, we can't stay living under a rock. We have to deal with the issue, the pandemic, as it is, make sure that we ensure the safety of all Australians, which the government has been very focused on in terms of the health response. Right. But we need to get back to work.
We've previously heard from Jeanette Young, the Queensland health officer, has said her advice was to keep the pandemic numbers low, that borders should stay up. But I just want to get your specific response. I know you said hotspots. Are you saying the Queensland Government should only be stopping anyone coming from a hotspot in Victoria and those parts of Melbourne?
Todd, look, Jeanette Young has done a very good job, as have all of the chief medical officers right around the country. I do note she's had some comments about school closures in Queensland because it wouldn't look right. Now, I don't think that was the right decision either. But once again, the Premier's made a decision. My view and the view of the Commonwealth is different. There is no need for borders to be closed. We need to manage those localised hotspots. We need to get business back underway, and the sooner we do that, the better.
But you're saying that that's the advice from Jeanette Young. You're saying she's what, wrong in a medical sense?
Tom, the states make their own decisions, as you know. This is our federation as it exists.
I know, but you mentioned the health advice at Commonwealth level, that's right. But Jeanette Young was on record publicly saying, with the previous border closures, for example, that they weren't going to help keep the numbers down. Are you saying she was wrong?
Tom, as I've said, the Commonwealth's advice is very clear.
But isn't the state advice clear as well?
Well, the state makes their own decisions. At a Commonwealth level, we are providing advice.
I'm not talking about the decisions, I'm talking about the advice from Jeanette Young.
Well, your viewers will make their own decisions, Tom. We provide advice from the Commonwealth. The states are making their own decisions. We are providing support for localised hotspots, as we are in Victoria, and will continue to do so in the future. We need to accept that those are things which will happen. But once again, Premier Palaszczuk has held these decisions back for a long period of time. I mean, she had a bit of a giggling fit there at one stage in her presser this week. I don't think anyone in business thinks this is funny. We are dealing with a very serious pandemic, as we will continue to do, but we need our economy back underway.
I wanted to ask about one thing in your portfolio at the moment. There seems to be some sort of an issue still in the Murray-Darling Basin plan with New South Wales. They want irrigators to be able to take much more of what's called the supplementary flow in some instances. That would be at the expense of environmental flows. Are you heading for a difficult time here?
Tom, this has been a challenging period right across the Murray-Darling plan for more than a decade. But let's stick with the positives. And the positives are we now have received all of the water resource plans from New South Wales. All of the other states are fully accredited. I signed off on the ACT just last week. We received the groundwater plans from New South Wales some weeks ago, and they are being assessed. We received the remainder before the 30th of June, which was a commitment that was given to me by Mel Pavey, the shareholding minister in New South Wales, which has been met. The MDBA will assess those plans against the criteria, as they have done for all of the other states and territories.
All right, but just on that particular issue, where do you sit right now? I mean, you're not going to walk away easily from environmental flows, it's still an important part of the plan?
Well, once again, the Murray-Darling Basin Authority will assess those plans against the criteria which are set in the legislation. Now, these are incredibly complicated and detailed documents. It's why it does take so long to put together. But I am very publicly going to thank Melinda Pavey for delivering what she said she would. We will assess those over coming weeks and months and make a determination.
PM about to give a speech on a bit of a defence pivot, some more money, but also the key part of this, much more of a focus on our region, the same region that China has been more assertive of late and trying to gain soft power, build military bases and so on. That pivot from us and China's focus, clearly not a coincidence, is it?
Well, Tom, as you've said, the PM will be making a speech around 10 o'clock this morning. It's just a few minutes to wait. It's not far away. But we have said publicly already we'll commit some $270 billion to defence over the next 10 years. That is a significant increase on what was forecast. We are acting on the information that's available, on the changes which have happened. I think you'd have to be living under a rock to expect that the corona outbreak right around the world hasn't changed significantly the relationships in some particular areas. Now, Australia will continue to do what it's always done. That is defend our national interest, defend our sovereignty, defend our people. There is clearly a change in the strategy which will be announced today. But once again, fundamentally, the Commonwealth Government, that is our role.
Just finally, the green and gold kangaroo, and a lot of us know so well, a bit of a symbol overseas, is set for a rebrand to what's been criticised as something that looks a bit like COVID-19. It's supposed to be wattle, or it's gold in colour with the letters AU. What have you made of this rebrand?
Oh, Tom, I'll leave the marketing to the marketers, but, mate, no one put Skippy in the corner. I'm sure the kangaroo symbol and the kangaroos in general will continue to be recognised as a symbol of our country.
You've travelled overseas a lot as a minister, though. What would you rather be showing people? What little emblem would you rather appear when you're representing Australia? What would have more impact, do you think?
Oh, Tom, it's not about me. It's about what works for Australia, what works for our interests, what works for our businesses which are trying to sell their product
for Australia
into tough markets. Well, I mean, this is what's been put together by the marketing professionals. Those are decisions for them. But as I said, mate, I'm a great fan of kangaroos and skippies, as long as I'm not bouncing some off the car, obviously, which can be challenging in regional areas. But once again, I think the Australian people know what we stand for. We know what matters to us. We know it reflects our interests and what we're interested in. But when it comes to marketing, I'll leave that to the marketers.